Hello and welcome to this week's Different League show, sponsored by Betfred. So by the end of this weekend, we'll know the Champions League semi-finalists, the Europa League semi-finalists, and the FA Cup finalists. We must be getting close to squeaky bum time at the end of the season. Delighted to say, alongside Mark Langdon and myself, we have Paul Robinson. Robbo, good to see you. Am I seeing something in common between you two? Have we got a haircut here?
Might have had a little trim, yeah, as well as the Spurs connection, obviously.
Obviously. Look, how you been? I mean, how exciting, stroke, how nervy is this point of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the title for Manchester City, you look at it realistically, there's no catching them now, and there hasn't been for a long time. But they're still involved in so many competitions, and it always comes around this time of year. Can they do it? Can they win the quadruple? But I think this is further on in the season that we're talking about it this season, that they're actually still involved in all the competitions. I mean, watch the Champions League this week, last night, the Bayern PSG game. I mean, it was only 1-0, but what a brilliant game of football. And you can see the talent now in the top teams. They're having to come to the fore to win these tournaments.
Yeah, we'll come on to that in just a second. But let's get straight into because there's lots to talk about, the big week's talking points. And we'll start with forgotten man to England starter, Jesse Lingard. Just how surprised have you been by his form at West Ham? How good has he been? And do you feel he can take West Ham to Champions League qualification?
Well, he is at the moment, and then they're looking like Champions League contenders at the moment. He's been brilliant. He's just got a new lease of life. He's obviously gone to a manager, a club that he's found his feet at quickly. David Moyes obviously knew what type of character he's dealing with at Manchester United, but he was frozen out under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And it's not nice when you're frozen out as a player. You know, if a manager doesn't want you, you're not in his plans, you're not playing, you're not in squads, you lose your way and you lose your head a little bit, whether you do that publicly or in person, and it becomes difficult. And you can just see that he's kind of had the shackles taken off him, he's had the reins taken off him, and he's got something to prove. He got himself in the England squad, and I know that Gareth Southgate's a big admirer of him, but there's so much competition for places in the attacking midfield slots that we've got, the amount of players we've got. But at the moment, Jesse Lingard's putting his hand up and saying, look, you have to take me. At the moment, the manager's got no option but to take him the way he's playing.
Yeah, at the moment, he's one of the stars of the Premier League. I must admit, I'm surprised by his form, but I'm delighted to see it, certainly in a West Ham shirt, Mark. What do you put it down to? Do you think he can take West Ham to a Champions League place? And is he on the plane to Wembley for the Euros?
I think he will be in the squad, yeah, because, I mean, as Paul was saying, Southgate's a big admirer of him. That was one of the reasons why he moved when he did, you know, to try to make a late rally, you know, to get into the squad. So I think he will. I keep saying no to West Ham getting into the top four. You know, with each week that passes, the confidence has to grow in it. I still believe that the teams behind them, you know, if it was Leicester chasing them, it might be a different story. But Chelsea and Liverpool are still two real, you know, big clubs that are going to win a lot of games, I would imagine, between now and the end of the season. Maybe they can sort of edge out one of them and catch Leicester. That's an option. I'd still say, from just an odds point of view, I would go for them just to miss out. But even if they do, to finish in the top six to get European football would be a great achievement. They've got a free hit, they've got to embrace it. And it feels like they are a little bit now. You know, there was the spell where they felt a bit nervous. Now they're playing with a bit more freedom again.
You say Chelsea, Liverpool, that have Spurs out of it now. I mean, you know the betting markets. Obviously a team that's important to me. Are they completely out of it now?
I think so. The Newcastle one was probably a bigger one than the Manchester United. You can lose to Manchester United, dropping 2 points at Newcastle, and then losing to Man United. I think they've got too much to do.
Yeah, you read my mind, actually. I mean, you look at the race for the top four. There's just 7 games left. 7 points separate 6 teams fighting for the remaining 2 Champions League places. You've got to say Manchester United are probably there. Leicester, West Ham, Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs and Everton. But I think we can discount... Oh, can we discount Spurs and Everton? How do you see it?
I'd like not to. I'd really like not to, because I said to you before we came on air, I've been a big Jose advocate. I've been a real big fan of his. I've liked him through his career. I just hope that when Spurs got him, they got the Jose that was at Chelsea, not the one that was at Manchester United. And he just seems disgruntled again. The players don't seem to be at the level that he would want them to be. The centre-half pairings change every week. The squad changes every week. There seems to be no continuity, no continuity in his selection. 1 minute a player will play, the next minute he's not even in the squad. Harry Winks and Dele Alli seem to be completely out of it again. Gareth Bale, I was really excited at the start of the season. That seems to have been that's not going to be just going to work well if you read his comments.
Okay, it sounds like then we can discuss.
So
but we'll come on to Spurs even more
yeah.
a little bit later. But in terms of this, and I've had just a quick look at the fixtures remaining. Liverpool have many winnable fixtures, although Leeds away and Manchester United obviously tough. West Ham have many winnable fixtures, despite them probably not being favourites. Chelsea being the toughest. Chelsea actually have the toughest, and that's where I'm slightly concerned because I do feel they'll get all the way to the Champions League final. They've got West Ham, City and Villa away, Arsenal and Leicester at home. And then Leicester's next 4 games I think are absolutely crucial. West Brom, Palace, Southampton, Newcastle before they play Manchester United, Chelsea and Spurs. So who's going to finish top 4?
I wouldn't have been worried about Chelsea until the West Brom game. I mean, the way that the managers come in and the way they've swept teams aside, they've kept clean sheets, they've scored goals, and they've looked a completely different team under Tuchel. And until the West Brom game, which took me and everyone by surprise, I think it killed everyone's accumulator that weekend, mine included. They looked defensively frail. West Brom found a way of playing against them. They pressed high, they took the ball back, and they made Chelsea look at a different outfit.
But they've bounced back well since then.
They've bounced back very well since then. And I think Mark's absolutely right when you say about West Ham being up there. I do think it's a false position. I know the West Ham fans will be going, no, we deserve it this season. Yes, they do deserve it. They've had a great season this year. But you look at Chelsea, Liverpool behind them, Everton possibly, Tottenham possibly. I don't think West Ham will have the ability to stay there. I think it will be Chelsea or Liverpool. I'll probably err on the side of Chelsea the way that they're going at the moment because I think momentum...
Along with Leicester.
Yeah, I think momentum breeds results. I think, like you say, they've got a real opportunity in the Champions League final, and a winning habit is as hard to get out of as a losing habit.
How do you see top 4?
I'm going to go for Chelsea and Liverpool to get in there. Leicester would concern me a bit now. Their leaders evaporated and they fell apart at this stage last season. You mentioned those last 3 matches. If it comes down to it, I'm not sure I'd massively fancy them. And I also think that the FA Cup, if they get to the FA Cup final, it might be a little distraction. It shouldn't because the Champions League will be really important, but I do wonder about that. So I'd go for Chelsea and Liverpool.
I don't disagree with you, to be honest with you. Let's move on to relegation. The race for the top 4 is certainly exciting. I mean, are we seeing Newcastle pulling away here? They win, Fulham lose, 6 points the gap, and Steve Bruce's men have a game in hand?
Yeah, all of a sudden it looks a bit more comfortable for Newcastle, doesn't it? I was hoping for a reverse of that result with Sean Dyche and Burnley, obviously. I would hope that Burnley would have put themselves a bit of a distance between the two of them and left Newcastle down there fighting out with Fulham. I think West Brom's form of late has been outstanding, but I think it's just a little bit too little too late. You can see the way that Sam's turned them around. They're not conceding many now. They're scoring goals. Every game seems to be 1 or 2-0 or 1-1, apart from the Chelsea game. And they've put up a real fight of it, but I do think it's too late for them. Obviously, Sheffield United we can discount. And then it really is whether Fulham can string some results together. But they don't look like doing that. And I think Newcastle have got more than enough to stay out of it. Plus, they've got a far superior goal difference as well.
Yeah, I agree with Robbo, too little too late for West Brom, despite them scoring 8 goals in the last 2 games and 5 at Stamford Bridge as well. It was just a few match days ago where we were all in agreement, really, weren't we, about Fulham probably overtaking Newcastle. 4 straight defeats now. Yeah,
and not good enough really from Fulham. I think that they've had the opportunity. They played well in that sort of spell where they had a lot of the big teams and they were competing. They haven't won enough matches, then you lose what you would consider winnable games against a Jack Grealish-less Aston Villa, to Wolves that were missing some key players as well. I think they're done, and West Brom might just be a little bit too late. They look a different team now. Diagne up front and Joselu in the midfield position have made a big difference.
So an agreement here then, Sheffield United, West Brom and Fulham.
Yeah, I think West Brom Sam struggled initially because being part of one of his outfits that escaped relegation at Blackburn, seeing the way that he works, with everything that's happening in the world and COVID, the social side of things, the team togetherness, the team bonding, the things that you do off the field as well, he's not been able to do that. So it's been a different challenge for him. And I think to start with, they maybe found that difficult. Yes, he seems to have got them in order now, but as you say, it's too little too late. I completely agree. It's the 3 that are there now.
OK, we're all in agreement until about 2 weeks' time where we change our mind completely again. And the final one of this week's talking points is a possible social media ban. Are we about to see all Premier League, Championship, League One and League Two clubs boycott social media following what is disgraceful online abuse? Depending on what you read, whether it's for a day or whether it's between April the 23rd or 26th. We know that Swansea, Birmingham and Rangers have already agreed to boycott for a week. What do we make of that? it feels like a major step, but is it enough to make these companies do something properly to sort this out?
I think it's a big step, but no, I don't feel like it is enough. Like, well, you're going off there for a small period of time. You're not going off there forever, are you? You're not threatening to pull the plug completely on these social media companies. So I don't think it will make a huge amount of difference. Players have taken that step themselves before and had a day where they weren't posting, but it seems to be in a worse position now than we were sort of back then. So I think it will make a small difference for a very short period of time, and then ultimately it won't.
Back to normal, yeah. Thierry Henry has come off indefinitely. Until the government acts, is this the type of thing that needs to be done? And as Mark rightly says, it needs to be almost a lot longer? Yeah,
I mean, it will have an impact. It will have a public impact. People will see it, it'll get publicity, but then it'll just get forgotten about again until it rears its ugly head again. The companies have to do something about it. There has to be some kind of a law brought in. It's disgraceful, it's disgusting, it's happening all the time. Somebody coming off social media for a week is not going to change the world.
Do the clubs need to come off then themselves?
But the clubs,
the financial implications
clubs
there?
And businesses can't because of the financial implications and the outreach to their fans. Social media has such a fantastic use when it's used correctly, putting people together, connecting people, especially in the difficult times that we've had. And it's also used in a very good business way for finances, for sponsorship, etc.
But what's more important?
If used correctly, it's brilliant for businesses. But it should be something, a stipulation where you can't have an account unless you put your passport details in there, or some form of identification where you cannot physically open an account on any kind of social media until there is a direct line to the person who opened the account. And that would stop it. Why? I don't know. You look at the small print of one of the companies, I don't know which one of the companies it was, and it's the wording of it, it's the way that it says you can't attack people or you can't threaten people. The wording of their privacy policies and their stipulations is not good enough, it's not strong enough, and it's obviously they're not going to do anything about it, so it has to come from the government. It has to come from above them to change this, because coming off social media for a week, yes, it'll be great publicity. Will it do anything? Probably not.
No, I do agree, and it's about time government does finally get involved, and until that happens, I don't think these companies are going to do anything. Okay, let's move on now, shall we, and talk about the Champions League. Tuesday night, Chelsea-Porto. Not much to say really about the Chelsea-Porto game, really, was it? Apart from extremely well managed by Tuchel's men.
What a goal, though.
It was a goal.
I mean, what a goal that means nothing. I mean, I was driving here this morning listening to the radio, and they were talking about the fantastic goal, and you do talk about that to your grandkids and your career later on, and they say, well, what did you win? Well, it meant nothing. It was an unbelievable goal to get nothing from a game. But no, it was a game well managed by Chelsea. They did all the hard work in the first leg, and like you quite rightly said earlier, I agree, they've got a real chance of winning it this year. Yeah,
PSG, Bayern Munich. Some games, some tie, 3-3 on aggregate. PSG go through on the away goal rule. I mean, it could have been 8-8, couldn't it?
It was a brilliant game. I mean, there's a lot to sort of dislike, I suppose, about the way certain European super clubs are now gathering all of the talent, and in certain leagues particularly, there's a complete... it can be a bit of a walkover on some weeks because of that talent. But what it does mean is the latter stages of the Champions League now are just so good. And that game there was brilliant. As good as you'll see, as fun as you'll see. I thought Neymar was fantastic.
How good was Neymar, by the way? He gets a lot of criticism, rightly so. Remember 2018 diving all over in Russia. But how good was he last night? He was brilliant, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's a goal away from from being an astonishing performance. As a Spurs fan, and with a heavy heart in some respects, but I want Poch to do well, so I was pleased that Paris went through.
Yeah, he's a good man, and it's going to be some semi-final, but who will they play? Will it be Borussia Dortmund or will it be Manchester City? What do you think?
I don't think
City 2-1 up at the moment.
I don't think it's the foregone conclusion that everybody seems to think it is. And you look at the markets, and City are heavily backed, clear favourites to win. And I've watched Dortmund a bit this year. They've fallen away in the league. They're not looking like they're going to qualify for the Champions League in league positions. So this is their only opportunity to qualify for the Champions League. It's an old phrase, and it's just a silly saying, if you like, but one goal, the first goal, will change this game hugely. I think you'll see a massive swing in the odds should Dortmund score first.
And of course, they've got Erling Haaland as well, so it would be interesting to see what happens there. So your prediction, who's going through?
I think City will go through, but I don't think it'll be easy for them tonight.
Okay. Now, Chelsea-Real Madrid, semi, or Chelsea-Liverpool? Can Liverpool have one of those special nights at Anfield without the special crowd that they have?
They can. They definitely can. I just don't fancy them really. I think 2-1 achievable, 3-1 maybe was a step too far. I've had enough Chelsea-Liverpool semi-finals to last a lifetime. Anyway, I'm sure they'll be better now than what those Mourinho-Benitez ones was. Pretty hard work.
They were down, weren't they?
We've got VAR now as well, so there won't be so much controversy.
Yeah, even more so, yeah.
No, I would have given Liverpool more chance with a crowd there. I think the first leg that they could be made to pay. Wouldn't be surprised if this finished something maybe just agonisingly short, like a 2-1 Liverpool win. Yeah,
that's my prediction as well. What's yours?
Yeah, I can see Liverpool winning, but not doing enough to get through.
Yeah. Of course, we wish Liverpool all the best. From Chelsea's point of view, they'd probably prefer to play Real Madrid, but from an English point of view...
From an English point of view, you obviously want the English team to go through. They've got a chance because of the two centre-halves that they're missing. Obviously today with COVID, we found out they're missing. From an English point of view, you want them to go through. But as a former Premier League player and playing in the Champions League, the last thing you want to do is play against another English club, regardless of who the other opposition is.
You're right, but even more so with it being Real Madrid as well. Just very quickly then, Europa League, United 2-0 up already, comfortable through, and how do you see Arsenal, Slavia Prague? That's not comfortable at all.
No, that's not comfortable for them. They'll have wanted to put that to bed in the first leg, and they didn't. And I think Slavia Prague gave them a shock. So they've got a real game on their hands. United, very comfortable first leg. Seeing them progressing. I think they're favourites for the tournament now as well, aren't they? So I think they will progress and they will go on. Arsenal will be a difficult away fixture.
But do you think they'll progress?
Yeah, I do. I do think they'll get through.
United and Arsenal?
United, yes. Arsenal, I think Slavia are a good team. Knocked out Rangers, knocked out Leicester, got the draw at Arsenal. I wouldn't be surprised if Slavia qualified.
Yeah, I think United and Slavia Prague, but I hope I'm wrong on that one. OK, let's move it on to this week's Q&A section, where we give the viewer a chance to win a £25 Amazon voucher for the question to be read out. We've got 2 questions for you. Ready?
Yeah, are they as good as your ones?
They're much better, much better. Adam Langley, would you have rather won the Premier League or the World Cup?
That is a really tough question, a really tough question. Having watched the Premier League all my life as a kid and growing up and playing in the Premier League, and then the World Cup's a different level. I think the World Cup, just simply for the effect that it'd probably have on the nation, for the country as a whole. I mean, you achieve something with your club, it's a phenomenal achievement, as many players do every year who win the Premier League. Not many players win a World Cup and are able to have that impact on a whole nation. So I think it would have to be a World Cup.
Yeah, surely growing up as a kid, we all looked and wanted to play for England. And
Panini stickers.
Yeah, exactly. Mine was 82, the first one I remembered as well, but you did it, mate. Charlie Rivers, if you could choose any 2 centre-halves to play in front of you, who would it be and why? Not necessarily from today's game. You can go for a lot further back if you want.
Ones that I played with, or...?
Let's do both.
Both. Ones that I played with, Ledley King would definitely be in there, just because of his reliability. I mean, I was very, very fortunate. I had some very good protection in front of me. That's probably why I stayed in goal for England so long. Rio Ferdinand, John Terry, Sol Campbell, Ledley King at times, Jonathan Woodgate at Leeds, and another one that I played with at Leeds, Lucas Radaby, one of the most reliable centre-halves that you could play him behind. I think Rio as an all-round centre-half for his defending. Rio wasn't always the best judger of situations, and he'd sometimes get done, but his pace and his ability would get him out of those situations. So I think probably from my generation, Ledley and Rio would be the two solid choices. Looking now at the current England side, I think Harry Maguire plays for me the way that he is. I mean, I don't think he's the complete centre-half. He's lacking in areas, but I would pick him. And at the moment, you'd have to pick John Stones the way that he's played, not the way that he's played recently, but the way that he has performed this season. Although I do like Tyrone Mings, but I think he's error-prone. I think I always used to like having a balance as centre-halves. Used to have one with the right foot and one with the left foot, and it always seemed to
Mings gives that, doesn't he? And he's got the pace.
Mings gives you that, and he's got the pace. I mean, John Stones hasn't got the pace. We've seen him recently make an error for England, and then we saw Stuart Dallas outrun him in the 92nd minute for Leeds the other week, which doesn't bode well for the Euros coming up when you think he's going to be coming up against Mbappe.
That's a horrible picture, isn't it? But look, I think you've answered them really well, actually. And yeah, I played with Rio at West Ham when he was coming. Well, he was just in the first team at the time. A Rolls Royce, a world-class player already. So Adam and Charlie, 2 £25 Amazon vouchers are on their way. Let's get to the game previews then, shall we? Friday, Everton Spurs, and I have to be honest, watching these two over the weekend. I don't know who I was most underwhelmed with, Spurs against United or Everton against Brighton. But if you were the father of Heung-min Son, would you feed him?
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't starve him of his dinner. But it's just, again, we can sit here for hours. It's this VAR. It has to stop. I don't blame the players, because the players are doing it because they know they're going to get a decision. The players are almost subconsciously, in their subconscious mind, knowing that if there's any kind of contact or any shape or form, there's a tackle or they're hitting away, they go down, the referee will look at it on VAR.
Do you think he did that? Do you think he thought, I'm going to do this
maybe
VAR,
subconsciously,
or he just got hit?
Maybe subconsciously. And it's not until the referees, I mean, the standard of refereeing at the moment is getting poorer and poorer. And there's two of them. One of them's watching the television screen, there's one of them on the field making the decision. The worrying thing is the one on the field made the decision, then he went to look at it on the screen and he still thought it was a foul. He thought it was a foul. And I just don't get it. The whole thing surrounding VAR, there's a hierarchy in referees, like there is in anything in life. There's a pecking order. So is a 30-year-old referee who's just come from the Championship going to want to undermine Mike Dean, Jonathan Moss, one of the top referees? Is he going to want to say, actually, you got that one wrong? Or the referee watching VAR, is it somebody who's trying to get into the Euros to referee in the European Champions League ahead of somebody else, would take great pride in saying to a referee on the pitch, got that one wrong, you might want to look at that. I just don't get the whole dynamic of it.
Robbo, you're absolutely spot on, but are you doing a Jose Mourinho here? Are you deflecting now? What's happening with
it certainly wasn't the foul. I mean, if that's the way we're going, if that's the route we're going down, there's no hope for VAR. But it's not VAR, it's the way VAR is implemented. Yeah. It's the people that are using VAR that's the problem.
I 100% agree with you, but where are Spurs right now? You watch them, what are you thinking?
I don't know. I really don't know. I said to you before, I was a huge Jose advocate. I like the squad that he'd amassed before the start of the season. I like this Gareth Bale signing. Bergwijn, who hasn't played so much this season, I think he's a top player. The two centre-halves, depending who it is, for me aren't good enough, regardless of who plays there, whether it be Rodon, Sanchez, Alderweireld or Eric Dyer, whatever two you put out of that four, they've not been good enough. Alderweireld for me is the best defender at the club, but 1 week he plays, 1 week he's not in the squad. The manager's spoken openly about the way certain players are behaving, and it just seems disjointed at the moment. It just seems to be a lack of harmony. I mean, a couple of weeks ago I was looking at it and I was asked and said, look, it's not a bad season. They could still finish top four. They could still win the Carabao Cup. If they don't do that, it's a bad season. And at the moment, they're not looking like finishing top four. They're going to have to win the Carabao Cup this year.
Can you see Jose Mourinho there at the start of next season, or do you think he won't be?
If he wins silverware, yes. And Harry Kane stays, yes. And if he gets the promises that he wants in the transfer market to buy the players that he'll want to buy.
Do you believe all that will happen?
I don't know, because
a lot of this there.
But you look at the way the chairman is. The chairman's got a good relationship with players, and obviously he likes Dele Alli. He doesn't want Dele Alli to go. Harry Winks, I suspect, is another one that another manager would use. So there's players there that aren't being used that maybe other managers would. So do you allow a manager who, if he doesn't have success this year, do you allow him to go again and revamp a squad with players that you probably want to keep at the club that are stronger, or do you make the change at the top? It's going to be a really interesting 3 or 4 weeks at Spurs.
It really will. I mean, we're supposed to be talking about Everton Spurs here, but there is a bigger picture here. How do you see it all,
at Spurs, I think Mourinho will leave in the summer. I just can't. I mean, it feels expensive to get rid of him, but you then get Dele Alli and Harry Winks back into the team or the squad. I mean, it probably pays for itself. Harry Winks has not had a good season, but I mean, he would probably look at somebody like Luke Shaw, who was battered by Mourinho and just didn't sort of show his true form until he left. And Dele Alli will probably look at somebody like Paul Pogba and sort of see similarities there with, a player that wants to play with freedom, not being given that freedom. And, I think most Spurs fans would probably rather those type of players be back in the team than the manager that they've got now. I also think that Ancelotti's getting away with it quite a lot at Everton because Mourinho's getting pelters from everybody, and Ancelotti, because he comes across as a much nicer guy, I think he's getting a real easy ride. An Everton team that.
But the expectation wasn't there at the start of the season, or was it? Chasing. I mean, they're only a point behind with it.
There's always expectation with Everton, though. Yeah. Everton fans at the beginning of every season.
But there's expectation and there's expectation. Everton fans will, want to see their club right up there, and rightly so. But
I don't see them getting any better. I don't see them being that much better now than what they were 12 months ago. They played quite well at the start of the season for about a month. Since then, they've been beaten by Newcastle, Fulham, Burnley, drew with Crystal Palace, barely had a shot at Brighton on Monday night. I feel like they're okay. But if I'm paying Ancelotti kind of, you want him to be the Hollywood manager, I don't feel like he's sort of on the verge of doing that. I don't see him sort of taking Everton to say where Brendan Rodgers has got Leicester. I know it's maybe a longer term job, but I was expecting a little bit more, I think.
Okay, well, it's just, we're not coming to Christmas because Jose Mourinho or Carlo Ancelotti will not be sending you two any Christmas cards.
I was going to say, do you have a bad trip to Everton? You don't like Everton hard, do you?
So what do you think then, your Betfred selection for this one, Everton Spurs?
I watched Everton Monday against Brighton, and it was just a poor game, wasn't it? They missed Calvert-Lewin hugely, who I think Ancelotti's improved players. He might not have improved the team and the results, but I think he's improved players. He's improved Michael Keane. Calvert-Lewin's a different animal under Ancelotti. He's a completely different player, and they missed him. Spurs, you just don't know what you're going to get at the moment. So in my match prediction, I completely sat on the fence and went for a score draw.
Okay.
I'm going for Tottenham to win the first half. In the first half table, they're second behind only Manchester City. They probably won't hold on, but they're quite good starters.
Jose actually looking at the rule book to see if they can stop the game now at half time. Listen, I don't think this would be a great game. You've got two teams who are comfortable playing sort of counter-attack football. For me, one goal wins this. And Everton haven't won in the last four, you're right, and only won one of the last 8 at home. So it could be another dour game, but I think Spurs will nick this 1-0. We'll see. OK, game preview 2 on Sunday. It is Arsenal against Fulham. And we touched on the sort of the fights to avoid relegation a little bit earlier. How does Scotty Parker pick Fulham up and even himself up after 4 straight defeats? Yeah,
they've hit a bad run of form at the wrong time in the season. They were just starting to put their head above the parapet and just starting to make a real fight of it. And then they've gone on a really bad run at the wrong time. And I can't see that changing against Arsenal. I think Arsenal have got too much. The inconsistency has been there for Arsenal far too often this season. You know, we've seen good performances and then we've seen performances that they'll want to forget about, which obviously has led to questions about Arteta and the direction they're going, the relationship with Aubameyang and among other things. But for this game, I think Fulham will struggle, and I think Fulham will struggle between now and the end of the season. Not necessarily their last result. The Wolves result was a crushing defeat for them, you know, because it was so late in the game. But the Newcastle game, they'll have been watching that game and hoping that Burnley will have won that. And just to see Newcastle pull away from them, it's another dagger in the heart, if you like. So I think Fulham's confidence will be rock bottom.
It was a big weekend last weekend, wasn't it, down the bottom? Is it must win for Fulham, or would a draw be good enough at the Emirates?
I don't feel they'll necessarily think it has to be must win because there are easier games still to come, and they'll look at that last one against Newcastle and think we need to be within 3 come that game, yes, and maybe make it a cup final, so you can almost sort of add another couple of points to the table at this stage, and sort of in your mind and think we've just got to get within 3 of them, and there will be easier games than Arsenal away. This is the stage of the season though when teams down at the bottom suddenly sort of pop up with results that you maybe not expecting. But I just feel like they've just lost their way a little bit, Fulham, and that Mitrovic maybe coming back into the team. I know why he's brought him back, but I felt they had more fluidity when he wasn't playing, and maybe they'd be better with sort of players on the counter-attack rather than Mitrovic, who himself does okay, but I'm not sure for the benefit of the team. Yeah,
you mentioned Arteta and Arsenal. How do you see that process going at the moment?
I think he had a good window in January. He brought in on loan from Real Madrid. He's been outstanding. That's got to be his priority, to sign him in the summer. But he had a good window in January because he got rid of a lot of dead wood that was in his squad, and he's going to have to do that again. I think he's got an ageing forward line, whether he goes with Aubameyang or Lacazette, which one of them stays. I think it'll be Aubameyang that stays. I think you might see Lacazette move on. I think he's got to have a big window. He's got to be backed, and he's got to rejuvenate the squad. I mean, it's a huge job what he had. Unai Emery came in after Wenger, and he had a big job to do, and he made more of a mess of it than fix it. And then Arteta's had to pick up the pieces. I like Arteta. I think he's a bright young manager. I think he's got great ideas. He's a top coach, but he's yet to prove himself at this level. But to prove himself at that level, he's got to be given time and transfer windows to do it. The relationship with Aubameyang's an interesting one, because as a player, if a manager does that to you and highlights that in a high-profile game, you can say, oh, it's done, it's forgotten about, it's brushed under the carpet. I don't think it ever is. I think it's always at the back of your mind as a player or a manager. Manager, he's let me down. Player, he's done me over. Why has he left me out? There's always going to be a little bit there. But in this game, I think Arsenal got too much in this game still, regardless whether Aubameyang plays or not. and I can see them winning 2-0 in this game.
There's so many questions that I could ask you, but I will ask for your Betfred selection. Got yours there, Robbo. What's yours?
I'm going to go for draw half-time, Arsenal full-time on the double result. Fulham have been level at the break in 9 of their last 11. Just Arsenal's quality to tell eventually.
Okay, Arsenal have never lost at home to Fulham. That's in 29 meetings, and have won each of the last 6 Premier League meetings, scoring 18, conceding 3. But I'm not one for looking back at stats, to be honest with you. It's irrelevant. I just don't see anything different here. I think Fulham are in a bad run. It's going to be interesting to see how Arsenal do in the Europa League and therefore the reaction to that. But I'm going for Arsenal -1 here. Okay, game preview 3, Manchester United against Burnley. And look, let's assume United got past Granada in and reached the Europa League semi-finals. Do you see Ole Gunnar Solskjaer making changes for this game? I mean, they're almost there in terms of Champions League qualification, aren't they?
I think he'll want to get it over the line. I think he'll want to make certain that he's playing against a Burnley team that are lacking in confidence and conceding a lot of goals at the moment, which is unlike them. It's going to be a huge ask for Burnley to go to Old Trafford and get anything. Saw the way they played the other day against Newcastle, defensively okay, and then they went 1-0 up and they capitulated. They're letting in far too many goals, and against a Manchester United team that will be no doubt coming off the back of a European success. I think it'll be a difficult place for them to go. I can see Ole putting out his strongest 11 that he's got. You know, he will have progressed in Europe by that point, and he'll want to make sure a second place.
Got to give it to Ole and United. I mean, I think I'm in agreement with you. I'm slightly not changing my mind on him for the long term, but I think he's done exceptionally well in the short term, and to finish second, which I think they will, and if they do win the Europa League, will be a good season in my opinion. They've come back from behind 9 times to win this season. I mean, Newcastle have done it more in Premier League history. They've got that character, haven't they?
They have. I mean, you would question sort of why they need to get themselves into that position in the first place.
I knew you'd say that.
Well, I mean, if you continually sort of slow start, there must be something in the. I don't know whether it's in the team talk before the game, or just the attitude of the players, or is the warm up right? Is the attitude right? I don't know. But then it obviously is at half time, and when Pogba sort of really turns it on, they look a completely different team. He's capable of doing stuff that very few other players in the Premier League can do. You just want to see it more and more often. I think that if he can find a way to get him into the team without harming them defensively, I mean, he seems to be doing that now in that front three, that I think is a big step forward for United. They've got a really big squad, and you can bring in players like Dan James and the midfielders, sort of Matic and people like that, change fairly regularly. You know what his best 11 is, but these players can come in and do a job for him, pretty comfortably. And I think Cavani, it doesn't surprise me at all, but he's still got so much to offer up front. Absolutely love watching him.
It's interesting you say that he knows his best 11. What is his best 11?
I think his best 11 is the team that played against Spurs. So with Pogba in that front three, I think Rashford and Cavani, I think that's his best front three. The two sort
Bruno
of,
behind? Or?
Yeah, Bruno in behind with the two sort of dogs of war in midfield, McTominay and Fred, and the kind of back four that he picks every week. I'll maybe defer the goalkeeper situation to Paul, but I would stick with Henderson.
Before we get to the goalkeeper, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you want Pogba in the side,
yeah,
but you do lose a bit of counter-attack pace if he's one of those forward-thinking players, isn't he? So, one, where would you play him? And two, got to ask you about the goalkeeping situation.
You want him in the side, but you want Pogba firing on all cylinders in the side. The problem that you've got with Pogba, as we've seen over a long period of time, you don't know what you're going to get. If you know that his head's on and his attitude's right and he's on top of his game, he plays, and he plays in that attacking role because he can create if he's willing to give you a little bit more defensively. Interesting to get your thoughts. What do you think about Jesse Lingard? Do you think he goes back and plays? I don't think he gets in that Manchester United side because of Bruno Fernandes. I think they're two similar players, and I don't think they can play together.
I think that's right. And Van der Beek has got a similar option. He can't get in there, so no, I think they'll look to sell. They'll look to sell him in the summer and get good money for him.
Okay, goalkeeper.
I think there'll be one of them getting sold in the summer. I think De Gea will get sold. I think he's put his head on the block as such, and he's made his decision. Henderson's his number one.
Would you play him here on in every game, Henderson?
I think you have to if you've made that decision.
Would you?
But no, because as a manager, they generally give their second string goalkeeper or the other number one, if you like, the European games or cup games. So, the United are still in Europe. They've got the European Cup run to have. I suspect he'll probably pacify De Gea till the end of the season by playing him in the Europe games. And Henderson will play the Premier League.
Who is your number one?
At the moment, Henderson is. De Gea has not been consistent enough. He's made too many mistakes that have led to goals, and he's had time off this season, and he just seems not the goalkeeper he used to be. The problem that he's got there, he's lost him. David De Gea at his age and his stage of his career is not going to want to sit and be number 2 at Manchester United. So by doing that, he's created himself a problem, which he knew he had at the beginning of the season, which is my strong belief why he didn't put Henderson in at the start of the season, because he knew he would have a problem with an older, experienced goalkeeper who wouldn't want to be there any longer. He's now 6-7 games away from the end of the season, so they can get by because they've got the European games for De Gea to play in. And then in the summer, he'll probably look to move him on. He'll want to move if he's not playing. Whereas if he had that problem at the start of the season, you've got a grumpy, experienced, older international in your squad that's not playing. You're not going to get your best out of him.
No one wants that. Just before we move on then and get your selection, does Henderson start for England or
no? No, Pope's a better goalkeeper, in my opinion.
Pope?
Yeah, Nick Pope is. I think we'll see potentially some offers coming in for him in the summer. There's talk that Tottenham are looking at him if Lloris is to move on elsewhere. I rate Nick Pope. I've trained with him a lot at Burnley. He's come on so much. There's been a lot of talk about whether he's good enough with his feet or not, and I think he's proved that he is. The last 2 England games, he was selected ahead of Dean Henderson, as I think he's firmly in place as
and in front of Pickford, if Pickford's fit.
No, I think Jordan's number 1 at the moment.
Right.
The manager's given him his vote of confidence, and since he's done that, I think his club form's improved. So you don't take the jersey off somebody who hasn't done anything wrong. But the time that he is there to be replaced, I think Nick Pope's firmly in position as number 2.
Okay, apologies to Man U fans and Burnley fans here. Well, let's get back to your prediction. But really interesting to get your thoughts on the goalkeeping situation. What do you think here, United versus Burnley?
A quiet afternoon for whoever plays in goal for United.
You could play in goal, is that what you're saying still?
I don't know about that. But I think it'll be a comfortable win for United, and I've gone for 3+ goals in the game.
Okay.
I'm going to go for United to win by more than 1 goal. Burnley, apart from that, they had a great result at Anfield, but a lot of their away performances at the big teams have been put away, which is a bit unlike them, and I don't think they're defending well enough at the moment.
No, I'm going United -2. I think it's going to be a big United win, to be honest with you. Okay, a good game on Monday, Leeds against Liverpool. Looking forward to this one. I mean, look, we don't know the result of the Real Madrid game, and this game is on the Monday, but what effects do you feel the Madrid game could have, if not physically, then mentally, on Liverpool?
I think if it's a negative result against Madrid, then it's their only hope of getting into the Champions League. So they have to focus all their energies onto getting a big result, which won't be easy. I mean, obviously Leeds is a club close to my heart, and you saw the way they played against Manchester City. I don't think even the hardest and most staunch Leeds fan would have seen that result coming with 10 men, never mind 11. It was an unbelievable result. And what Leeds have done this season and what they've achieved to get to 45 points now, it's a free hit for them against Liverpool. So it's a really dangerous game for Liverpool. I mean, it's going to be a really tough game for them in the Champions League against Real Madrid. It's a game that they will not want. A Leeds team full of confidence off the back of a stunning victory against Manchester City with, let's be honest, nothing to play for and nothing to lose. The 45 points, mid to top half of the table. They've had a fantastic season. It's a really dangerous game for Liverpool.
Totally agree, and they've won the last 3 as well. Normally, at this stage of the season, teams fighting for something want to be playing against teams that are fighting for nothing, and the table suggests that Leeds are fighting for nothing. But a Bielsa side is going to be at it 100% of the time. And Stuart Dallas, the way he just epitomises exactly what Bielsa wants from his players, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, the fitness levels of the players is incredible. I was said earlier about him outrunning John Stones and learned so late in the game. But that's what Leeds are able to do. The fitness levels, the demands that he puts on the players is incredible. And the relationship that he's got with his players, for players to be able to do that. Because one, it's the scouting network that recruits those type of players that will buy into what he does. Because he's quite aloof with his players. It's not a standoffish relationship, but he's quite aloof. He does his things in the training ground. And the players get interviewed and say, he runs you hard, puts these demands on you. They just turn around and say, that's what he does, that's what we do. But they see the benefits of it on the pitch. So they see the benefits by beating Manchester City and the feeling they get from that. And they know what they do is working and it's right. So they'll buy into what he asks of them.
Murder ball is worth it.
Murder ball, yeah.
I mean, what about Liverpool though, Mark? Because does it feel like they've got back on track in terms of the league? 3 straight wins now.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bit of hard work. Not the Arsenal game, but the other two, particularly Aston Villa, very late winner. I feel like they're a good side, Liverpool. They've still got a lot of quality in the team. They just give you more opportunities now. Teams are not scared of them because they look at the 2 centre-backs and think, we can score against you. And when it's Van Dijk and Gomez, you don't get that same vibe, do you? Sort of, when you're trying to attack them, and half the team's probably already beat at Anfield before they turned up because of the crowd. So they've had to fight against a few of those sort of issues. Apart from the Real Madrid first leg, which came out of nowhere, that performance was really odd. I think their Premier League form suggests they have turned the corner, and they need to. You can't rely on winning the Champions League to get back into the competition. And for a team like Liverpool to not be in the Champions League would be a real big blow. So it's a massive game for them, whatever happens against Real Madrid.
Yeah, and just in terms of this game, what is your selection? And could it be the classic it was at the start of the season where Liverpool nicked it, really, didn't they, 4-3?
Oh, this is a game that I've been really looking forward to this weekend. And I think everybody is, hence the reason it's moved to Monday night for television, so everybody can watch it. From a Leeds point of view, it's a complete free hit. And I can see Leeds winning. The form that they're in at the moment, they don't fear anybody. Mark just touched on there about the frailties that Liverpool have at the back. Leeds will create chances and Leeds will score. And it just depends on their defensive solidity, which hasn't been great this season. Obviously, Liam Cooper's out. He got sent off against Manchester City. So there's a chance for Robin Koch to come back in alongside Llorente. So it's a new centre-half partnership. But I can see Leeds winning and I can see Jack Harrison scoring.
Interesting.
The goal line, it's normally over under 2.5. It's moved up to 3.5 for this game. I'm going to go under, just because 80% of Leeds and Liverpool's Premier League games in 2021 combined have actually been under 3.5 goals, and you can get 8 to 13 at the moment, which suggests there's a 60-odd% chance of it. So I feel like it's maybe just been overestimated for how many goals there's going to be in this game. It'll be fun. I'm just not sure it'll be that many.
Someone's done extra homework today, haven't
That's
they?
brownie points today, isn't it?
That's why he is where he is, because I haven't quite done that, and I'm actually going for
6-all.
I'm going for a high score draw. I think these two, Liverpool, need to win, so they will go for it. I think defensively they're still poor. They concede goals. And you know what you get with Leeds. They'll attack, they perhaps won't defend. More so because Bielsa's not giving the defenders a chance and the goalkeeper a chance. But I think it's going to be a really, really good game, this. If this was on Saturday, I'd go for a Leeds win, but I'm actually going to go for a high score draw. Now, game preview 5. Well, previews. This weekend is the FA Cup semi-finals, of course. It's some fantastic games here as well. Saturday evening, prime time, BBC, or Astro TV if you can watch it, because I'm a pundit on that as well. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's Chelsea versus City. It is so many layers to this, isn't it? I mean, are the winners to this game, without being disrespectful to the other semi-final, strong favourites to go on and win it? Does the attempt for the quadruple stop here? Can Tuchel show that actually his Chelsea are going to be a force to be reckoned with in the Premier League next season and get one over on Pep? How do you see all this?
All those dynamics come into play, don't they? I mean, what a fantastic game. It should be the final, in all honesty. You know, the way the draw is, you don't know what's going to happen. But I think you're quite right. The winners of this game will win. No disrespect to the other two teams. They're just stronger teams and they're stronger squads. Anything can happen on the day. But realistically, you look at this game and the winner comes from that game. Again, European exploits this week could have an effect on the game. But it's a really interesting one. Manchester City, we thought were invincible. The way that they were playing, we thought, can anyone get anywhere near them? And then we saw Leeds beat them with 10 men. So all of a sudden, there's a different dynamic on the game. Chelsea having the success in the Champions League, City chasing the quadruple. I mean, City could, in effect, be out the FA Cup and out the Carabao Cup in the space of 3 weeks. Just have the league and the Champions League to play for, and out the Champions League as well. So it's a big week for City, a huge week for City. And Chelsea, of course. It's just a fantastic game, isn't it? Two of the real big superpowers of English football going head to head.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. What's key for you here, and what are you expecting from each manager as well? Tuchel, it's almost like you kind of know what you're going to get. With Pep, you've got no idea, have you?
The Pep roulette, well, you have his team selection and sort of the way that he goes about it, you really don't know. I would suspect he would give Chelsea a lot of respect in this game, and that's why it could be maybe a cagey game, one that sort of is really interesting without necessarily being this spectacular game of football. He will know what Chelsea's strength on the counter-attack, and he'll try to stop that. But teams that can counter against Man City are the ones that have caused the most trouble. Manchester United are a really good example of a team that have been able to do that, and Chelsea do a lot of that well. That they defend well, as we've seen, and they hit on the counter-attack. So this is the kind of team that Pep will be wary of. I'm not saying he'll be scared of them, but these are the kind of teams that give him most problems, I would say.
It is interesting, isn't it? Because Chelsea can counter very well, but under Tuchel they seem to like to control the game, and that's why they don't concede many chances, West Brom game apart. You know, how do you see this game developing, you know, in terms of sides picked and also the way the game goes?
I think Sam Allardyce has shown Pep the blueprint, hasn't he, how to play against Chelsea. I think he'll probably look at that, and City will press high. They're not going to drop off Chelsea, whereas Chelsea do like to play on the counter-attack at times. City don't really seem to change their style regardless of who they play against, whether they play with a 3 at the top, a false 9, you know, however they do it, whatever formation they have. I think City will attack the game. I think they'll go to take the game to Chelsea. And I think Chelsea looked vulnerable against West Brom, and it showed some of the frailties. And I think City will take a lot of confidence from that. And you're not going to like it, but I think City will beat them.
I don't like it.
No, I don't know, you wouldn't.
Do you, within the 90 minutes?
Yeah, I think they'll do it within the 90 minutes. I think they'll do it quite handsomely as well, because I think if they get one up early, Chelsea will have to come out. They'll start leaving spaces, and the pace that City have got and the quality that they've got, we've seen.
Interesting. I think the Champions League could have a little bit of effect, and I think that will certainly favour Chelsea in that respect. Who are you going for?
I'm going for a draw in 90 minutes. Wouldn't be surprised if it went to penalties, a bit like the cup final they had when Kepa decided he wanted to be the manager and stay on. I wouldn't surprise me at all if it went all the way.
Yeah, I did that game. It was absolutely incredible. I've got exactly the same here, penalties.
Really?
Of course I'm going to go for Chelsea. But
It's hard to separate to such quality though, isn't it?
It is, and it's probably something that Chelsea would take right now, because Manchester City should be favourites. But under Tuchel, you know, I think he's, apart from that West Brom game, he's done fantastic, I have to say. On Sunday, Leicester versus Southampton. Robert, what did you make of the way Brendan Rodgers dealt with a decision to drop Maddison, Perez and Chowdhury against West Ham after breaking COVID rules and going to Perez's house party? The right thing to do for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the whole world and the nation as a whole is going through a horrible time at the moment. Nobody's an exception to the rule. You know, you can half understand the players maybe thinking, oh, we're in our bubble at training, we're together in the changing rooms, we're together on the field. But if there's families and other people involved, everybody's got to abide by the same rules. And you've got to stand up and take your hat off to Brendan Rodgers, because they're a bunch of his quality players that he had missing, and there was a huge effect on the field.
Yeah.
And he did it to the detriment of his own success and his team's success. Whether that has an effect in the dressing room, I mean, you know as well as I do that there's cliques in dressing rooms and there's players. Those players that have got left out had a huge effect in the result at the weekend against West Ham. Do other players now turn around and go, what were you doing? Come on, mate. That, you know, you've let us down here, and feel let down by their counterparts. Are they able to move on from that? It'll be very interesting as to see when these players come back into the fold to what effect it has on squad harmony. I certainly wouldn't be happy if I was part of a Leicester team.
Would you have said something to them?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're part of a team that suffered the result that they did against West Ham, and you weren't allowed...
It was a crucial game.
And you weren't allowed some of your best players because of their own stupidity. Absolutely. There is a number of older senior players that certainly would have had a voice in the dressing room.
Yeah, I thought Brendan Rodgers dealt with it superbly, and that's why I think he's going to not be at Leicester in a couple of years' time, shall we say. But is that it? Maddison done for England?
Yeah, Gareth Southgate probably nodding when he heard that. It's just a bit of confirmation for what I think he hasn't trusted him right from the start, and that would have just reaffirmed that position. And he doesn't need to take him, does he? He's not like he's desperate for somebody to be in that position. There are players of equal ability, probably had slightly better seasons than him, that he thinks he can trust. And I think the biggest issue was Brendan Rodgers had told the players in the week or the week before, don't do anything silly. This is a really important stage of the season. And then for like 4 senior players to do that to him, really not good.
Terrible. So will it affect this game? What do you think? What's your Betfred selection?
My selection is for over 2.5 goals, because Southampton are awful defensively, but they've got a couple of Ings being the obvious one, but they've got others. Redmond is a player that I really like, and I can see them scoring, but probably losing over 2.5 goals.
Yeah, I'm going both teams to score, but Leicester to win. What are you going for?
I went Leicester to 0. I think what I said about the detriment it has in a dressing room. There's another flip side of it, that these players, yes, will have had a scolding off the manager. They will have let other players in the dressing room down. They then have something to prove. Do they go out on the pitch and do that? It'd be interesting to see how they turn out, but I still fancy they've got too much for Southampton.
So you're going for City, Leicester?
Leicester to 0, yeah.
We shall see. OK, final one, team treble, where we pick a team that we think will win and give a reason why. Who have you gone for this weekend?
Well, I've gone a bit out the park for this one, because I've done Premier League teams. I didn't realise we could pick anywhere. So I've covered a bit of German football recently, and I did Eintracht Frankfurt and Wolfsburg last week. 2 teams, 3rd and 4th in the Bundesliga, 10 points clear of Dortmund in the Champions League places, and 2 real surprises for the season. Frankfurt beat Wolfsburg 4-3 last week to close the gap between them to 1 point and to lengthen the gap between them and Dortmund. So I was impressed with Frankfurt last week. Their attacking play, defensively they were poor, which has been unlike them this year, and they're playing Mönchengladbach this weekend. So I've gone for a Frankfurt win at Mönchengladbach.
Wow, it's like having 2 Mark Langdons in here. The font of knowledge in this room is amazing. Mark, who are you going for?
I'm also on the continent. It's the Spanish Cup final this weekend, only a couple of weeks after last season's Cup final. Athletic Bilbao lost that one a couple of weeks ago. And I think they're going to lose again. Barcelona, they are pretty strong favourites, but I think that's absolutely deservedly so. They've won 13 of their last 15 in La Liga. I thought they were a little bit unlucky against Paris Saint-Germain in the second leg. Probably didn't deserve to lose Clásico at the weekend when they lost 2-1. They're playing much better than they were at the start of the season, and they really need to win this. You can't go trophyless. They're not going to win La Liga, I don't think now. So all the eggs in this basket, and I think that they'll beat Athletic.
OK, well, it's good to see Barcelona slowly getting back to the team that we all kind of want them to see. I've not gone Premier League, but I've not gone Europe. I'm dipping down into League One. A difficult one here, because I've seen Blackpool, and I think they'll finish in the playoffs. So it's either them to beat Sunderland, and Sunderland have lost the last 2, surprise on Tuesday night against Wigan. But I'm actually going, I think the safer bet is Burton to beat Plymouth. Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, what he's done.
Jimmy's turned him around, hasn't he?
Jimmy has done a fantastic job. Now, I don't think they'll finish top half, but where they were when they took over, they were going down.
I spoke to Jimmy about 6 weeks before, or 5 weeks before he took that job, and he was quite happy doing his little bits on Sky. No, I don't think I'm going to go back into it at the moment unless the right job comes up. And then I see he's gone back into Burton in the situation they're in, but he's turned it round. Fair play to him.
They say don't go back, and that certainly bucks the trend, doesn't it? So I'm going for Burton. 8-1, by the way, that treble is this week. Robbo, that's it. Really good to see you. What are you up to this weekend?
What we're doing this weekend? FA Cup semi-finals, I think.
Brilliant. We'll have a good one anyway. Mark, as ever, good to see you, and I'll see you again next week. We'll hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll see how all the Champions League, the Europa League, and of course the FA Cup semi-finals go on. We'll be back next week. And remember, of course, as we always say on behalf of Betfred and also the Racing Post, if you do gamble, please gamble responsibly.